Captains of Industry, brought to you by Airtel.
Welcome back. You're watching Captains of Industry. Now, Phuti Malabie has been CEO of Shanduka for about a year. Before that, she was the managing director at Shanduka Energy, and so getting her hands dirty on the oil and gas and energy side of the business. She has a financial mind, having been vice president at Fieldstone, a boutique investment house. She's also been a senior executive specializing in project finance at the Development Bank of Southern Africa. She's received international acclaim for her career, and tonight she joins us as our Captain of Industry. Phuti, are you a feminist in your leadership?
You know, it's very interesting. I mean, I don't know why we always have to label things. I mean, if you ask me, am I a very strong supporter of the empowerment of women and, women having their rightful place in the economy and in society? I absolutely am. Yeah. It does not make sense to me why we would want to only use half of the capacity that we have in the world when we can have access to 100% of the capacity. And that is the reality, is that, you have, 100% of your population and you're only using half of it, And so I believe that if we are to grow, as nations in the world, we need to be using, both men and women's talents.
I think I'm asking you this because you debunk so many myths. You're young. I mean, you're under 45 and you're running a significantly capitalized entity. You're highly educated, and for an African, we know that's also an aberration. You're female in a society that's quite patriarchal. So in many ways, you just don't fit the mold. But here you are. And the question is, why is it not happening fast enough in other industries? What was your journey that makes it so difficult for many other women?
Yeah, I think maybe if from my upbringing, my father was, always saying to both my sister and I that, we should never, rely on anybody to do anything for us. And so we grew up knowing that if we wanted to have anything, that we should be prepared to work for it. And so, I've always had that mindset that if I had to, if I wanted anything, I needed to work for it. And so I suppose it's that level of ambition, that hunger, that passion, which is something that I suppose you're not taught. It's just innately, there. But I think more importantly, though, I've had a lot of support, people such as Cyril Ramaphosa who, have given me opportunities, to be able to have, leadership roles and as such.
Tell us about the relationship you have with him, because you look to him as your mentor, and yet effectively he's your boss. So what sort of a relationship is that?
Yeah. Well, he is, first of all, he is my boss before anything else.
Okay, so the targets, the deliverables, huh?
Absolutely, and there's no question about that, because, he's a very disciplined person. And there's a lot that I try to emulate with him, and very authentic, down to earth person, and he's the same person all the time. You don't get a different person with him when he's in a certain circle of people versus another circle of people, and there's, I see a lot, I find it very inspiring, and so, he's number one, he's my boss. I never lose sight of that, but it's inspiring to be able to work with him, and therefore, I do see
when you're sitting and he's happy with the financials, and he's happy with the results, and he's happy with the program of action, and you're relaxed and there's no tension, what are the sort of things he says to you? What are the greatest pearls of wisdom that come from a Cyril Ramaphosa?
Oh, there are many. Cyril's constantly giving messages that tell you that he always wants to be setting the bar at a certain level, and he's always preparing us to know that we need to be doing more than the average. One of the things we often joke about is that he'll use the term pedestrian a lot. He'll do something, you'll say, oh, that's pedestrian. And so, he maintains, high standards about everything. And he's very detail orientated. He knows about everything that goes on in the business. And so it does keep one, it keeps you on your toes. And he works around the clock.
But it's pressure on you as well then.
Yeah. but it's good. It certainly keeps you sharp. You can't afford to be sleeping on the job, which is another term of his. Are you sleeping on the job? So I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with him, and I hope that we can achieve great things together.
And outside of Cyril's wisdom is your own father, who is also often referred to as one of the pioneers of black business in South Africa, Mahalo Malabie. What have you learned from your dad?
Oh, yeah. My dad, my dad inspired me to be a businesswoman. Yeah. And there's so much that I've learned from Dad, spiritually, from a business perspective, on so many different levels. And there's so many things Dad would constantly be saying. He's also a person who's got all these different sayings, and he'll say things like, there is no way to happiness, because happiness is the way. And the way that he's lived his life, just looking at the way that he's been able to persist and persevere, and those are some of the things that have been very important and fundamental to my own journey. Is just having this capacity to persevere, because as you know, it's very difficult. I don't know whether it's something that is unique to us as women, but you have to be able to persevere under very challenging and difficult circumstances. It's not always,
rosy. I know, and I mean, let me just use a pedestrian example to summarize what you're saying. When I look at you, you're about 5'5". You're small. When you walk into a boardroom to come and negotiate a big $100 million deal. Anybody who doesn't know anything about you wouldn't take you seriously. And immediately you've got to confront that perception.
Exactly.
Just at first base. Before the broader challenges of selling the business, getting the vision understood. It's people dealing with you.
Absolutely.
How do you handle that?
You're so right, because people form a view of you before you even open your mouth, and that's something that it's been a part of life that I've just had to just take in, and the good thing, the positive thing about it is that people can just be so surprised when but it's something that no longer really features for me. I don't even think about it anymore, but you think about it about many women who've been successful. Maria Ramos, very petite, also very but very dynamic, very powerful, and so it's about so much more than your physique. But you're absolutely right. Those are things that one has to learn to just overcome.
When I look at you, you're very in charge, in control, self-confident. Doesn't seem like anything phases you. Doesn't seem like you've suffered any setbacks. Doesn't seem like you take failure to heart. Is that because you haven't really experienced it, or you've learned to cope with difficulties?
No. I've had to deal with a lot of setbacks. I mean, from a young age. At 17, when we lost our mother, and we were very fortunate to have a father he's magnificent, just very, very loving, and there's been a number of other personal setbacks, significant setbacks that I have gone through, but one thing that I've always known is the importance of being able to get up and continue going, and the way in which I live my life is to enable me to always be able to deal, because apart from the big wars, you're also dealing with the small battles along the way,
and my father always says, look at the bigger picture. Don't fight a battle when you've still got to fight the war.
Exactly. And I think for me it's been a number of things. One is my spiritual beliefs mentally have always been helpful to just sustain me, just to kind of just see beyond.
Equilibrium. Equilibrium. Even keel.
This person's really irritating, but I'm not going to see it.
Even keel.
Right.
Keep it together.
But also physically, just running and, you know, keeping fit and all of that, I find that mentally it's very freeing to be able to do a lot of sort of physical stuff as well. So, you know, and taking time away, you know, as well, and spending time with my family. I find those are things that really help me to keep a very balanced lifestyle, mentally, physically, and in other ways.
I mean, you talk about exercise, and many women leaders who've been on the show also go back to the need for me time and the need to just you know, find synergy between the heart, soul and mind. But most of them like yoga.
Yes.
I know that you've had a particular penchant for Pilates. Why is that?
You know, Pilates, I see it as something that is, you know, you can do until you're 100 or you know, beyond, and so, you know, and it's got so many benefits. I mean, you can achieve what you could through physical, you know, a lot of sort of, you know,
rigorous,
hardcore, rigorous exercise. You can achieve just through small movements, you know, with Pilates, and it's more sort of long term, and sort of it takes longer and all of that, but you achieve it, and I think it's so much more sustainable and gentler on the body, and, you know, all of that, and it just, So
are you into those sort of alternative things, alternative healing, meditation, maybe Asian religions? Are you that way inclined?
No, not necessarily. I just try to find sort of wholesome ways of living my life. You know, I have very sort of clear views around, you know, religion and spiritual beliefs, I think with everything, it's just finding the right answers.
Been wonderful having you. You're open. You're decisive. You are thought-provoking, but you're also very graceful and gentle. And I think sometimes they say that's where the strength really lies. It's in the calm, it's in the silence, as opposed to just beating too many drums. And I think you are very reflective of that. And we love how you paid homage to your mentor and boss, Cyril Ramaphosa, and absolutely to your father. And we'll be watching you as you inspire so many other young Africans starting new homegrown businesses. She's the CEO of Shanduka. She's Phuti Malabie, and she's been our captain of industry tonight.